What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today we are seeing the return of the Rant series as we're going to discuss the AFC West and why I dislike the teams in the AFC West. So let's start with the Denver Broncos, of course, in alphabetical order. And the Denver Broncos have 5 bullet points here. First one, Peyton Manning. So I never truly had a problem with Peyton. He spent his whole career in the AFC, and obviously that means he's never really playing the Eagles, plays them once every 4 years. And, of course, he was a big rival of Brady, so that's a big plus for me as well. But I did not necessarily... It was nice to see him go out on top, but I didn't necessarily want him to, if that makes sense. It was just kind of like, okay, whatever. He'd already won a ring in Indianapolis. I didn't necessarily need to see him win a second one. But, the one time I was rooting for him in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks, he got his butt kicked. So, that's just a big knock on Peyton, and that was a big knock on Denver as well. Plus, the Eagles were apparently in contention to sign Peyton Manning, so. Paxton Lynch. I've mentioned before numerous times that I am a Memphis Tigers football fan. Part of the reason is because I loved watching Paxton Lynch play. And after Manning left, the team drafted Paxton Lynch. They're talking about him as the franchise quarterback of the future. And he flopped. There's no denying it. He flopped in the NFL. But the problem is, he was never really an NFL quarterback. I see that now. But I'm always going to, slightly resent the Broncos for being the team that made him flop. Anyone could have drafted him. Anyone would have seen him flop, but Denver's just going to be the team that did that to him. So, John Elway saga. So, Elway gets 2 bullet points, lucky him, as you can see. The first one, the saga. So, as we know, he was drafted first overall in the draft by I believe it was Baltimore Colts, and he refused to play in Baltimore. So, then they have to end up trading him to the Broncos, and he ends up having a great career in Denver as a Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't like when players do that garbage. When we get to the Giants, I'm going to give them a knock for Eli Manning doing the exact same stuff. So, I never liked that stuff, and especially when the team goes on to win the Super Bowl, and the team that did not have him doesn't, it's more of an insult to me, so that's a knock on them. Elway is GM. So, John Elway as a GM is a very interesting general manager. All he does is he drafts the same type of players year after year after year, and then he gets all pissed off when they don't work out, and he's just a very interesting GM. So I'm not a fan of him as a GM. And the high altitude advantage. So if you're a fan of any team that is not the Denver Broncos, when your team has to play in Denver, you're terrified. I remember the last time the Eagles played in Denver, which would have been 2013. You would see all the players, the Eagles players, just gassed on the sidelines, with oxygen tanks and all that, because they're not used to it. You'd see a player break out for a big run, and he'd just be sitting on the sidelines for the next 5 plays, catching his breath. And it's an unfair advantage, one that's in Denver, and obviously the Broncos don't control that, but it's just something I always dislike them for. Next, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. In Kansas City, I don't have too much of a problem with. And obviously, point 1 is Andy Reid here. So I never had a problem with them signing Reid. Reid was always going to get a job outside of Philadelphia. And I just had to put it as a bullet point because I miss Andy Reid a lot. A real lot, especially with potential turmoil in Philadelphia. I really miss the consistency of Andy Reid. I would have loved to keep him. But Dick Vermeil. So, I remember when Dick Vermeil left the Chiefs back in 2005. But at the time, I was not aware of the whole Dick Vermeil saga in Philadelphia in the 1980s where he had to resign. It was a mess. So, any team that got Dick Vermeil always gets a knock for me because he had to resign despite having this extremely talented team, and the Philadelphia Eagles fell off a cliff after that. Granted, they would eventually get Buddy Ryan, but it's a big knock to me that Dick Vermeil did that garbage. And then he comes back, he coaches the Rams to a Super Bowl victory, and then comes back and coaches the Chiefs for a while. Just a big knock. The last point for them is their fan base in 2020. Ever since they won the Super Bowl, all we hear is how great the Chiefs are and everything. Chiefs fans were non-existent for my whole life up to this point, and now all of a sudden they're everywhere. It's just bandwagon fans. Every team gets them, and it's really irritating to see it every year. And Kansas City just doesn't necessarily deserve it, if that makes sense. Los Angeles Chargers. Phillip Rivers. So, Phillip Rivers is a guy I am a fan of as quarterback. But I am not a fan of how the Chargers just basically completely screwed him, never giving him anyone to really help him out outside of Antonio Gates and LaDainian Tomlinson early on. I love those three players. Of course, they had Darren Sproles as well. But they just never invested in a true wide receiver one. Yeah, he had Keenan Allen towards the end, but is that really a true wide receiver one? And they never really gave him an offensive line. So Phillip Rivers always struggled, and Rivers is also a bit of a baby. So yes, he played a game on a torn ACL. I will always say that. I will defend him in that case. But he's a bit of a baby. You know, he's the type of guy that he just complains if something doesn't go his way. Leaving San Diego. Whenever a team leaves a city and I remember it, I will give them a knock for that. And I think they never should have left San Diego. The argument was, oh, well, LA is a bigger market. Yes, it is, but there's a team there. Oh, well, the Chargers were founded in LA. Yes, they were, but that was about 60 years ago. What's the point? There's no fans there anymore. If you were a Chargers fan in 1960, fact of the matter is, you've moved on. So, I mean, they've had the Rams, they've had the Raiders. Both teams would leave, and then the Rams came back. So you're probably a Rams fan at this point in time. But you just alienated your whole fan base when you left San Diego. And I was never happy when they left San Diego. When they announced they were leaving, I was not happy about that garbage at all. I don't think LA deserves two teams. You know, they barely can support the Rams. So that's a video for a whole different day, but I never liked that. Fans in Los Angeles, speaking of, can you find me Chargers fans? Honestly? Can you find me a Chargers fan today? Just watch a Chargers home game in any season from 2016, 2017 on. Find one. And tell me how many home fans they have there. Just, you watch a team that travels decently, like Philadelphia, Minnesota, Green Bay. They take over Los Angeles Stadium. They take it over. It's as if 60% of the fans are supporting the road team. That should not be happening. That's just a shot on you, the Chargers, for having a garbage team and no fans. You shouldn't have left San Diego. That's my opinion. You shouldn't have left San Diego. Ryan Leaf saga. So I remember when I did that trade breakdown video, check it out if you haven't already. I already went into the whole saga. I just wanted to mention it here. Constant disappointment. Year after year after year, the Chargers look like they're going to be this great team. Every time, they fall off a cliff. Like, a couple years back, 2018, they had a great run. They barely got knocked out by the Patriots. What happened after that? They're sitting at, 3-7 right now? That's not good at all. This is a team that's supposed to be good. You have Justin Herbert as your quarterback now. Herbert's looking very good, okay? Herbert is probably the front runner for Rookie of the Year. He's definitely up there. So, how are you again struggling when you have Keenan Allen? You let Melvin Gordon walk. You don't re-sign players. That's the problem. That's the problem with this team. They don't re-sign anybody, and they just upset every single person. They upset their fan base. I gotta stop before I keep ranting about these guys. Last team, Las Vegas Raiders, leaving Oakland, as I said with Chargers. Always a knock. Oakland was a very loyal fan base for you, and then you just jump because you see Las Vegas as an opening, and you go, oh, we want Vegas. We're going to Vegas. It's disloyal to do that to a fan base that's been with you since the early 90s. It was just a slap in the face to them. Wasted top picks. They always have these great picks, and they always waste them. Never forget, the Raiders are the team that picked a place kicker, in the first round. And that was the 2000 NFL draft. Yeah, granted, Sebastian Janikowski was a good player. But why would you pick a kicker in the first round? I don't understand it. And then let's not forget all the other guys. This team is always infatuated with speed, which is going to be part of my next bullet point of Just Win Baby by Al Davis. This team's always infatuated with speed. So they'll pick the fastest guy. If you run the fastest combine, or the fastest 40 at the combine, odds are you're going to be a Raider. And these guys, they don't care about you other than that. You can't catch the ball? Oh, well, you're fast. Come join the team. Just look at a list of those receivers they've drafted in the 2000s and 2010s and tell me how many of them panned out. They just pick these fast players that can't catch the damn ball, so you can't even use them as a punt returner. 1980s Super Bowl. Again, I wasn't alive for this one, but all four Philadelphia teams had very good 1980 seasons. Only one of the four would end up winning the championship. I believe 3 of the 4 made the championship. And of course, the Eagles were one of them. This was their first Super Bowl appearance, and they unfortunately would lose to the Raiders. Raiders were a good team. They were the first wild card team to win a Super Bowl, so shout out to them for that. Raider Nation. I mentioned it again with the Bills Mafia. I'm an Eagles fan. Raiders Nation thinks they're the best fan base in the NFL. Don't at me. Eagles are better than you. One good thing to say about each team. Raiders. I do like some of the players that you've had. I'm a fan of Derek Carr. You've always treated him well. And you guys were the team that gave Marshawn Lynch a chance after he was coming back, so I appreciate that. Los Angeles Chargers. My aunt is a huge Chargers fan, and that kind of made the Chargers my AFC team. Plus, you guys had Darren Sproles, Ryan Matthews, a lot of running backs that I really like. LaDainian Tomlinson, I really like these guys, so. Kansas City Chiefs. You gave Andy Reid his first ring as a head coach, of course, second ring overall, and I appreciate that a lot. Denver Broncos. I'm a big fan of Drew Lock, so I like your quarterback, and Drew Lock's a good player. I know he's not looking great. Maybe he's going to go the way of Paxton Lynch. I hope not. But, yeah. That was my AFC West rant. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good rest of your day.